Hey, what's up, Bucketheads? It's Joe with at CBB DFS. Bird and James are here. We're back for another Saturday morning shoot around. What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going, Joe?
Good.
Everybody good? Everybody ready to go?
We're ready. Couldn't be more ready.
So a lot like last Saturday, what we're doing is we're presenting the site. We're going to send out a link to this post. You guys can click on the embedded YouTube video. Once this is completed, you can follow along on the accordion style down here. That's got all of our games color coded from lowest over under to the highest over under. And we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. We got a nice slate on Saturday. It's only a $10 buy-in, Bird. That was nice to see.
Yeah, it's really nice. $10 buy-in, 5,000 to first. So I feel like that, really nice price point, pretty decent payout. It's a nice little Saturday.
Yeah, we'll take the 5K to first. Only 9 games. Some of the games we can complain about a little bit if we want, but I think we've kind of used up all of our complaining this week after the way it's kind of played out.
Yeah, good vibes only from here on out. We're just happy that there's basketball, and even when DraftKings tries to poop on our slates, we're just going to play through it and control what we can control.
That's exactly right. As usual, we have our games broken up into our buckets. In the don't go overboard section, it's a little heavier than we like. We got 4 games in the don't go overboard section. That's DePaul at Butler, Virginia Tech at Miami, Seton Hall and UConn, Syracuse and Clemson. Then our middle section is the tread water area. That's Wisconsin and Illinois, Kansas and West Virginia, Mississippi State at South Carolina. And then finally, that dive-in section, the games that we're probably going to want the most action on. There's just 2 this week, Texas and Oklahoma State and Alabama and Missouri. Again, we're going to go through these from the lowest point total to the highest. So are you guys ready to get in?
Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Yep.
First one we have on here is DePaul at Butler. And I positive vibes only. That's what we said. But I do want to ask, why is this game on the slate? When you have Florida, LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, Virginia, Pittsburgh, all these other games are within our window, and they give us this DePaul Butler game, 2 of the bottom dwelling teams in the Big East. It's frustrating, but it's on here. Positive from here on out, I promise.
Only positive.
Only positive. All right, let's look at DePaul first. Charlie Moore missed last game with an elbow injury. We're going to monitor his status to see if he plays. If he doesn't play, Javon Freeman-Liberty goes up and up and up. He led the team in rebounding and assists in the game that he missed last Saturday. So play all the Javon Freeman-Liberty you can. Outside of that, with this total being so low, just at that 131, I'm probably not going to go too crazy here. I will say that Selnave down there at 4,500 and Elvis, the guard, at 3,900, each had extended run in that last game. So I don't know if Leto's just trying some different things as this team's clearly not going anywhere. So that's something I'm not going to play it, but I'd be curious to see what happens. And, if you do got bigger cojones than I do, maybe you can take a shot with one of those guys because they are pretty cheap. On the Butler side of things, guys, we get to watch Bo Hodges. This is a Eastern Tennessee State all SoCon guy. He's now eligible after some personal issues, after some eligibility grade issues. All right, it is what it is. But he's had 2 games under his belt. He went 26 DK, 44 DK. So Bo Hodges immediately has become their alpha. You can see in the 2 games, he's getting close to 33 minutes. He's got that 27% usage and a 30% shot share. Butler is a team dying for offense. And if someone's going to come in and take some shots, Hodges seems to have no problem being that guy. I'm probably not going to play him given the tempo here, but I definitely want to watch it and see what he's made of. He's a stat stuffer. At least he was at Eastern Tennessee State. He's had some nice rebounding games in the first 2. So something to watch there, Butler fans. Bert, has your buddy mentioned anything about Bo Hodges? I know it's been a little hard to keep in touch with the way the work environment's going right now, but did you see any of that coming?
I know everybody's been really excited about Bo Hodges. Like you said, a guy who could do a little bit of everything at East Tennessee State. My buddy's in Key West right now, so he's probably having more fun than worrying about Butler basketball. But I think I was hoping his price would be a little bit lower than it was. One guy whose price is low though is Aaron Thompson, a guy we've seen get it done before in the past. Again, not the sexiest over under or slate, but DePaul doesn't play any defense. And at that price point, I think Aaron Thompson's an interesting play.
I actually was going to say that's a great play. You look at the 33 minutes per game there, 22% usage. He's essentially their main glue guy. They're balancing steady Eddie on that team. He's had a string of not so great games, but we've seen him rip off 26 in a game with 6 assists and 5 rebounds. So 4,300, that's pretty enticing there. But that's enough on this one. Let's get to the next game, which isn't that much higher of a point total. I do want to let you guys know that this point total is based off KenPom because we are recording this on Friday, so we're going off the fan match projections. This isn't the Vegas point totals, but they have Virginia Tech and Miami at 132, Virginia Tech being the 6-point favorite. And James, you see I put a little crown next to Aluma. He's the price king today on this 9-game slate.
Well, back-to-back 50 burgers will do that for you. He's been great lately, and I think this is actually a matchup that he can excel in. I don't know if 50 is reasonable again, but I think he's certainly capable of 4X even at the crazy price he's at now. But he's playing unbelievably, just excellent rebounder, and just every shot's going in. He's taking a ton of them.
Tyrese Radford got into some trouble this week. I mockingly put a police car next to his name. But he don't expect him to play. With him out at guard, does that give a bump to anyone specifically, James?
Yeah, Miami is horrible at defending the three. And that's been really their biggest issue all year. And so I think, really the 3-point guys on the team. So Naheem Alain, Hunter Couture, and then even Jalen Cone, who's been kind of a mixed bag, but he takes a lot of threes. So I think, I wouldn't take all those guys, but you could pick one of those guys out that kind of fits in your lineup and take a shot with them in GPP. And probably one of those guys are going to come through in this.
Yeah. So far, 2 games in, we got a lot of cheap options actually through just 3 teams. James, let's talk about Miami. Likes is practicing. Is that what I saw?
Yeah. Yeah, they're saying he might play, so definitely something to keep an eye on. He hasn't really seen the floor since last year, I guess. And so obviously he's a huge piece, senior this year, absolute dynamo, owns the ball, high usage. So we'll have to see how he looks, but somebody I think you have to consider for sure, especially at 6,100. I think he went way over that last year.
Now, the rest of the Miami guys, kind of hard to pick between, and they're all kind of jumbled, right? I mean, it's hard to find someone else out of that group.
Terrible game. It's a terrible matchup. Virginia
Right.
Tech's really good defense, really slow paced. So there's a couple guys, Olenia, I can't pronounce his name, Elijah Olenia, has been really good lately. I think he's somebody that you could look at. Cam McGusty has been carrying a lot of the scoring load for this team. So maybe you take a shot with them. Harlan Beverly had a really good game. Actually, one thing to really note about this game is it does have the low over under here, but they played earlier this year and it went to 80-78.
Oh, wow.
So
Pump the over.
bump the over. So there is precedent for, maybe that.
I tell you what, neither of these
high.
teams have gotten better since then.
They certainly haven't. They're awful. Yeah. In fact, I think you could really think about Aluma in this game, but Justin Mutz maybe on the Virginia Tech side if you want to take a chance with somebody a little bit cheaper. But I think outside of that, there's probably better games to look at here.
I agree. Let's move on to the next one. We're going one by one in that over-under count. This one has an over-under of 133, and that's Seton Hall at UConn. Bird, you know Seton Hall well. We were big fans last year. Mamo's at 81, Roden all the way down to 6,200. Anything you really like here?
That's what stood out to me. It was Roden at 6,200. That's just a huge price drop for a guy that we've seen get 30 DK regularly. Kind of that second option behind Mamu Kalashvili. So I do like that, and I do think Mamu's price is down into a very playable range as well. And then I know you're going to talk about your boy Bryce Aiken, who's been shown some turn the upside here and there.
He has, and he's getting consistent 20 minutes now. I wish they would push that up a little bit, but Shabar Reynolds is playing well, and he's been their point guard all year round, so you're just not going to usurp him with a couple of big games. But he's always someone who can get hot, definitely a tourney option. He hasn't really shown it lately, and UConn, they're going to want to plod the game up a little bit, so I don't know if I'm on the Aiken train this week. But as far as UConn goes, Bo Knight, close to coming back. looks like he could come back as early as Wednesday. That was off of a Rothstein post earlier today. Don't expect him on Saturday, but stranger things have happened in DFS. So without Bowden Knight, it's really been the RJ Cole show. Tyrese Martin is my favorite play consistently for the Huskies. He's a kind of a do everything guy, a glue guy who can knock down threes, rebound, and defend. RJ Cole's that running the show for that team. He's got a great beard, but he's got some scoring chops as well. Isaiah Whaley's super active down low, but at 7,100, I think on this slate, you're going to have ways to find better options in that price point. Outside of that, Polly's been an iceberg, so his prices dropped down a ton. Nothing for me suggests that he's going to snap out of that anytime soon.
Yeah, real quick, I think Seton Hall, they do give up 40% from three. So that
could free a Poly back up. Yeah, he's going to shoot them, that's for sure. Maybe I give a slight bump to Cole, but again, 133 point total on this one. I probably don't want too much exposure. UConn will be fun when Bowden Knight comes back, but until then, I've had a hard time figuring them out. They're definitely a plotting team. Let's get on back to the ACC and talk about Syracuse Clemson a little bit. This one has Clemson as a 2-point favorite. The over-under here is 134 as we steadily climb up. Still not a game we want to get too many pieces of. But when we're talking about Syracuse, looks like Alan Griffin's back to his normal pricing.
Yeah, he sure is. And that, he's really good. He's really productive. He's got a nose for the ball, can grab a lot of rebounds, gets a lot of defensive stats. He had 3 blocks and 4 steals against NC State. So he doesn't always have to do it with scoring. However, even that being said, he will phone it in sometimes and just forget to show up to the game. So you have to be careful. I think he's still sort of a tournament play. And you get into a low scoring game like this against, Clemson defense that, can be pretty good at times. You have to be kind of careful at that price point, but he's definitely someone you can target in GPP.
What about Buddy? I mean, you still have the 27% shot share still there. Are they just not going down right now?
I don't know. I think, the Clemson in general. So you have about 5 guys that just play all the time, right? So that the minutes are going to be there, and it's been this way for a long time. But I think they're going to be heavily shot dependent. A lot of the guys, especially the guys that are sort of keyed on as shooters. Buddy Boeheim certainly being that way. He'll have the green light. He'll always have a chance. So I think in that way, you can always plug him into a GPP lineup. But there's not. Clemson's pretty good defensively, so maybe not the best matchup.
Clemson is really good defensively, but they do give up a lot of 3-point field goal attempts. So I think that is something to keep in mind for Boeheim, sure. And even Joseph Girard, who's a guy who has kind of that boom or bust upside. But yeah, James, you're right. I mean, they kind of just play 5 guys, so they're going to be on the court, and so that really increases their floor.
Are you on Quincy Guerrier today, Saturday, Bird?
God, he's been unbelievable. I mean, he is an absolute rebounding animal. I think he's always in play, again, just because he's going to be on the court the entire game. So I think the one risk, Clemson 320th in tempo, 333rd in defensive possession length. So, less possessions equals less opportunity to score DFS points. And so that's probably the biggest concern of this game.
Let's flip down to Clemson, James. We know about Amir Sims, but I got to be honest with you. I don't do a lot of ACC stuff. I had to look up Hunter Tyson, who's their second highest price guy.
They're a mess. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't really want to spend a ton of time on this. Much like Clemson, actually, Syracuse, because of the zone, a lot of teams will try to shoot over them. And so they give up a lot of threes, but they are the top team in the ACC and holding teams percentage-wise, 28%. So they kind of goad teams into doing it. Teams aren't very successful at it. And so I think it's difficult to even target, some of the shooters for Clemson because, it's just could go either way. But there aren't really anybody else, and that's with the mixed pricing here. There's not really anybody else that I'm really looking at, to be perfectly honest. I think Sims is somebody you can look at because of the rebounding advantage that he can have. But beyond that, there's not really anybody else I like.
Yeah,
Bird,
Sims has got top 80 offensive rebounding percentage this year, and so that profiles well against the Syracuse zone. But man, this team is really hard to figure out. I know they changed their lineup lately, and it's been a circus.
yeah, didn't you say Hemingway started last game for them?
Yeah, I think they're just they've struggled lately. I think they're searching at this point, and it's just Trap, I guess, is maybe their second best rebounder. So he's a guy, but overall this game feels like a trap. So
Oh, all right. First
Hey.
one, got it in.
let's go.
Well, it'll be an honor if we can move on.
Hey,
If we can move on to the next one. Hey, let's get to some better games. We're finally out of the don't go overboard section. Those games that you want to definitely not stack and probably just want to find a player or two from. There is some cheaper value there where you're not going to get burned so bad. But now as we move into the tread water section, these are games that most of them look like pretty good games. And like this Illinois Wisconsin's only an over under a 137. But if Illinois can dictate pace at home, they could really push that total up, in my opinion. And Wisconsin's been playing quicker lately with all those games against Penn State, but their pricing is still way down because they haven't done a ton with them. James, what do you like on the Badger side of this?
I've been on this Demetric Trice, and he is just so disappointing lately, and he just makes me look like a fool. But I'm gonna go with him again because he's at 6,100. He's in a funk. Clearly, he's still getting all the minutes. The shots aren't there, right? He only took 5 shots against Penn State, which is crazy. Only 9 shots before that. Penn State's pretty good on the perimeter defensively, so maybe that contributed. But he's a shooter, and I think Illinois could get exposed from 3-point land for sure. And they can allow these lead guards to kind of get in the lane and dictate. So he's the guy I'm looking at just purely on the price at this point. He's way too good, way too experienced to sit in a funk all year. So I think he's somebody that you can look at in GPP.
Which forward are you going with? Bird says none.
None. Yeah. None. Yeah. I don't, they're all a gamble, right? I mean, then they all sitting around that same price point. Maybe you could look at Brad Davison. He's had a couple nice games. Seems to be shooting the ball pretty well. And like I said, Illinois can get exposed there. So maybe somebody you could look at. But forward, as far as the forwards go, maybe a lean forward. His price is down a little bit, 4,800. But otherwise, it's crapshoot.
I got another pun, but I held it back that time for you guys. Let's look at Illinois. We got Kofi Coburn, higher price than Ayo. Obviously, Wisconsin's going to run a couple different people at him throughout the game. I actually love Ayo. I know the pace of this one isn't great, but anytime I can get him under 9, I think that's a steal.
I think it is, and he was the one, if you remember, that hit the big shot in the Kohl Center last year that gave Illinois a rare victory there. I think he's going to be critically important in this game. He got in some foul trouble. Actually, first time ever he fouled out against Indiana. Didn't have a great game, but I think he's due for a bounce back, and I think it might be in a big way.
Trent Frazier, recent form has been great, so he's priced up way too much for me. I don't think you can give him consideration. Who on the cheaper side for Illinois would you look at?
I would probably. I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to play Curbelo right now.
Right.
He's still at 4,800, and I kind of expected his price to come up after the last game. I wasn't sure, but I didn't even mention him in my write-up, as one of our bucket heads pointed out. And all he did was go out and win the game. So 27 DK. I think it would be difficult. They're going to have more and more confidence in him. He'll play more of a role. So I think you have to look at him.
So Grandison had that 28 against Iowa, but then kind of regressed a little bit in the next starting. Didn't really capitalize on that. Is he kind of not in the picture right now?
Grandison?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say. One thing I do know is that Williams has been hurt. He's been playing hurt lately, and so he ended up. Underwood came out and said that he's finally sort of back to healthy. And he ended up having 28 minutes in that Indiana game, which I think cut into Grandison's playing time.
Sure.
So those guys are probably going to end up kind of clobbering each other there. So I probably stay away from both.
Yeah,
Bird, you got it. Go ahead.
Curbelo smashed with having foul trouble in the first half too. I mean, he barely played in the first half due to fouls, and just carried that team in the second half. And I would agree, Granderson's kind of just a guy. at this point. Good, try hard. He does well. He's
Right.
plays his role, but probably not somebody we're going to look at on the DFS radar. It's crazy to see Adam Miller down there at 3,600. He's just so shot dependent. But, and he's missing a lot of shots. He changed his hair to blonde. Joe,
Oh,
I don't know.
no.
I
That's
think
the
a
cardinal
factor.
sin. You never want to do that.
Nope.
All right, guys, let's keep moving if that's all right. Bird,
Yep.
you're up. We got Kansas, West Virginia, and I use the KU logo instead of the Jayhawk logo because until
Oh.
Kansas starts playing better, they get the KU logo. They don't get the Jayhawk head. So,
Oh, yeah.
talk
Trajan
to me
Ford.
about this. Talk to me about this KU West Virginia game. This should be a good game.
This should be a really good game. They played earlier this year, and Kansas won 79-65. In that game, Agbaji, Wilson, and Brown all had double-digit three-point attempts, and then McCormick had a double-double down low. So Kansas actually played really well that game, and their highest-priced player, which is kind of crazy to see, 6,800 is your price king for the Jayhawks. So I think really they're kind of all in play. They're a little bit like Syracuse, where there's only going to be 5 guys that are playing. They continue to run the offense through McCormick, and he's maddening at times, but he's a double-double threat. He had a double-double against West Virginia the first time at 6,600. I don't think that price is bad. And then Agbaji at 6,300, I feel like it probably has the highest floor of all these players that are out there for the Jayhawks. Very consistent type of cash play, good cash target there. And then Jalen Wilson got back in the starting lineup last game, shot the ball a little bit better. He played well. He had 17 points, 7 boards, 4 assists last time against West Virginia. So I think he's a GPP option, and Brown continues to be kind of that boom or bust GPP play as well. So they're still trying to find their identity. It's kind of a hard team to figure out right now, but at least their pricing's down.
Yeah, that's for sure. How about West Virginia?
Well, what stood out to me was how high Miles McBride is priced, because he's played well lately, but it's not like he's putting up like a Luma type 50 burgers, here and there. 8,500 is a really high price. West Virginia always plays well against Kansas at home, but that's a hefty price tag for me I would much rather go down to Culver at 7,600, a guy who's shown 40, 50 DK upside, and save the 900. And then, you get a couple punt options there. Taz Sherman's really that scoring dependent option at 4,800. And then Sean McNeil has back-to-back 4X games, and he did have 30 against Kansas. The first time got really hot from 3. We've seen teams get hot from 3 against Kansas in the past. So Sherman and McNeil both profile well from that regard. But otherwise, kind of a jumbled rotation for West Virginia. Hard to really trust those guys. I don't know, James, anything stand out to you?
Not really. I think I mentioned McCabe last time we were on this.
Yes.
He had looked like he had a pretty strong outing against Iowa State. There's probably a much lower expected point total overall, so maybe not a good profile here, but he's somebody I probably would look at.
Yeah, at 39 minutes or at 3,900, he's playing 20, 25 minutes at point guard. So I think that's a good punt option as well. I do think West Virginia will probably play pretty well. Bobby Huggins gets that $25,000 bonus every time they beat KU. So that helps.
Speaking of 25, if Kansas loses, they're threatened. They could drop out of the top 25, which would mean the entire Champions Classic, Michigan State, Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas will all be not ranked. And, that's not even mentioning some of the other teams that have struggled this year and aren't in the top 25.
KU's been ranked in the top 25 for 100 straight weeks. So yeah, they're threatening to lose that streak. And then, so who's next? Who's got the longest streak after that?
Oh, do you know the answer?
Yeah, you guys, if you figure it out, you'll figure it out. But
Gonzaga.
Yeah, Gonzaga.
Yep. That's a
you
good
go.
stat. But we got to phrase it like a Jeopardy question next time.
That's my bad.
All right, we got 3 to go here, guys. This is an SEC game with a 142 point total. It's another head scratcher, more so in why is this one on the slate? It's Mississippi State at South Carolina. South Carolina is going to want to play fast. Mississippi State's going to want to play slow. Starting with road Mississippi State, I like the fact that DJ Stewart's going to get paced up. This is a guy who can really score the basketball. The model we've been working on really likes him on Saturday. I think DJ Stewart is very much in play in this game. Tolu Smith is down to 6,300 as well. He's a rebounder. He's a point getter and is really their number 2 option. You see Iverson Molinar's price has really dropped. This is someone who was ungodly priced, but that's more reflective of current form. But any of those three, I think, are live because South Carolina is going to want to push the pace in this one. With South Carolina, it's crazy because they really have a big three. It's AJ Lawson and Keyshawn Bryant and Jermaine Couisnard. Each of them have a shot share at over 27%. So 3 times 27 is 81. So that means 81% of the team's shots are coming from those three people. All of them are under 7,500. Keyshawn Bryant is super athletic. He's going to get a lot of ancillary stats. He's a great defender. AJ Lawson, he's been around for a while. He's had some really big games this year. He's also disappeared in a couple of matchups. And Couisnard down there at 6,400 is really the most even keel of that group. Probably the basketball player I like the best of the group. But I think all three of those guys are in play. After that, you really can't recommend the South Carolina guys, because if you look down the woods at their shot shares, it's just 14, 12, 19, 17. You can't count on them to get it up. Minaya has to play the 5 a little bit. So he's someone who can stretch the floor and occasionally get hot. But at 6,100, I'd rather just pay the 300 up for Couisnard. Anything from this game stand out to either of you guys?
Yeah, just the contrasting styles. Mississippi State's going to want to play slow around 300th in tempo, where South Carolina really wants to push pace. So if South Carolina can dictate tempo, there should be a lot of possessions. So this one should be interesting. And yeah, Couisnard at 6,400 is kind of intriguing, especially, Mississippi State gives up a lot of 3-point opportunities, a lot of 3-point field goals. And he's actually shot the ball a little bit better this year, which is surprising to me.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's keep the train moving, guys. Bert, I want to go back to you for this Texas-Oklahoma State game. Texas is on the road in this one, and kind of the theme of this pod so far is everybody looks priced to play, and the same thing can be said for Texas.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Andrew Jones has been just phenomenal this year. He's played really, really well, kind of taken on that alpha scoring role with Ramey providing some kind of background support. Matt Coleman continues to have that high floor. He's going to have the ball in his hands all game. Jericho Sims has played better this year, but there's no way on earth. And so I've been wrong on Sims, so I'll be the first to admit that. He's played a lot better than I thought. But when you can get Greg Brown for $200 less than Jericho Sims, I mean, you're just firing away at that price. Greg Brown, who completely just murdered somebody on
destroyed.
Oh my God.
He should have got 10 DK for that.
Oh, that was unbelievable. I'm surprised they didn't pick him out for taunting the way that the refs do. But at 5,700, I think that's just an awesome price. Really, really stands out to me. And otherwise, I think you've got Jones and Ramey as those GPP options, and Coleman is more of that cash target.
All right. And then on the Oklahoma State side of things, Cade's back. He's fine. Decision-making might not be the best down the stretch. At least it wasn't last time out. But Cade at 7,900. And then Matthew Alexander Moncrief. This is a guy who's up $3,200 in 4 games. What's up with them, Bert?
He's been unbelievable. He's been fantastic. I think we've talked about it before, but he's got 2 cousins that are in the NBA. Like, he's got NBA bloodlines. He's played great. To be honest with you, I've really struggled lately with Oklahoma State. I want to play Cade Cunningham, a number 1 pick in the draft, like consensus number 1 player in the nation in terms of upside. But he's been kind of hit or miss lately. I think he's still totally priced to play. Like you said, Moncrief's played great lately, but at some point that's got to run out at that price point, 3,200 up. Like that scares me a lot. Likely's price is way down. That looks really nice at 5,900. A guy who can do a little bit of everything. And then Caleb Boone, he went on a heater, and then he went back to his old self where he got in foul trouble. Barely was on the court. So you could take a bounce back there in tournaments. And then those guards are a little bit maddening between Walker and Anderson and Williams. So I don't have a great feel for the Cowboys right now. I think likely at that price probably makes a lot of sense from a safety perspective. And then obviously Cunningham just has elite talent. I think he's a guy you can always get hot, but Texas is going to be a tough matchup.
All right, guys, one more to hit. That's Bama, Missouri. This is Bama, 3-point favorites going to Columbia. They're taking on the Tigers, who they have the time correctly set in DraftKings for this Missouri game. It's going to start at 11. There won't be any swapping or anything like that. All lineups should be live and locked at the appropriate times. But Bama, Number 10 in the nation, one of our favorite DFS teams this year. Looking at their pricing, Herb Jones at 7,800, always in play. Shackelford has leaped Petty right now, which means I prefer Petty of the two. But they're very similar profile players who are going to go out and get their points and a couple ancillary stats here and there. At 6,600, I prefer Petty to Shackelford. But I will say I've been playing Shackelford over Petty when he's been the lower price of the two. I definitely want one of those two wings in my lineup because of their ability to score. Jones is someone who does a little bit of everything. I like him definitely under 8. I think he could have a big game here. Alex Reese has been phenomenal filling in at the 5. He's kind of taken over that spot for them, but he's going to have his hands full with Tillman because Missouri's actually using Tillman and he's having a pretty strong year. And then it gets kind of maddening when you look down here at the other guards for Alabama, Quinterly, Ellis, and Primo. All of them on their own are fantastic players. Quinterly's falling off a cliff as far as he's just a rotational guy right now. But he has tons of upside, and Ellis and Primo just alternate when they're that third option and having a good game. So it's kind of hard to pick between them, but I think all of them are live in GPPs. And if there's one you've got a feeling about, fire them up. But for me, it's Petty. It's probably Jones, maybe Jones. And then I'm going to take a shot with one of the guards. We'll see who that is. On the Missouri side of things, I mentioned Tillman has been playing awesome. He's really had a great year for them. He is a foul risk, but there isn't a lot down low for Alabama that's going to match him up one-on-one. So he's primed to have a good day. At 8,300, though, that's a lot of scratch to pay for someone I don't still fully trust after watching him play for 4 years. Drew Smith's coming off his monster game that many of us had in our lineups at some point this week. So he's priced up to 8,000. I don't like him as much here. The game flow here is very positive Drew Smith game flow. So I think he'll be fine in cash. I'm just not looking at him from a GPP standpoint. Pinson's priced up because he's starting to shoot the ball as well. I'm probably off him in prize picks, depending on what that number is tomorrow. We'll see. Mitchell Smith also had a big game last time out, so he's priced up to 5,000, which leads me to the real value here, and that's Kobe Brown and Mark Smith. I'll talk about Kobe because he's a slight value. Mark Smith's a major value. Kobe Brown is normally the better of the two fours that come in between him and Mitchell Smith. He's priced down to 4,300 if you want that exposure there. I think he'll excel in this type of game. He's a little more athletic player, so he could get the additional time over Mitchell. Mark Smith, however, he starts at the 3. He plays all the minutes that he can handle. You can see there almost 30 minutes a game. He's got an excellent outside shot. He's always been a pretty good rebounder, and he's always down there. He's all the way down there at 4,200. So I think that that Mark Smith to me is a lock button in GPP and cash just because of the upside that he's going to bring with his ability to shoot the ball and rebound. Now, Bird, after looking at this game, is there anything that stands out to you? This is the big over-under, so we want some exposure here.
Yeah, I think you hit it really well. I think the Missouri players are priced up pretty high at the top, so I think you probably want to go look at some of those value options. So I think that's fair. I did love that our Bucketheads gave us some grief on that Xavier Pinson prize picks. Like that was really, it made me laugh. Like it was great. And it was nice to see him actually come out and do well for once, because we were going to be done with him on prize picks if he couldn't hit that 21 prize pick points, whatever that super low total is.
Yeah. Right now, our prize picks is blank. We'll fill these in tomorrow morning when they're released. We'll tweet out that the prize picks have been updated, probably send out another note individually. Guys, we've wrapped up our 9-game slate. We are going to convert this into a podcast. We're going to upload it onto the YouTube. We're going to embed the YouTube into the story. So then we'll send out the story. We got a lot of things moving and shaking. It should be a nice Saturday of college hoops. The evening slates are really great too, if we're looking into the future. But I'm looking forward to a nice, relaxing, hoops-oriented Saturday before the big game on Sunday.
Who do you got in the big game, guys?
I'm going to take old man Brady. I like that there's someone in the NFL still older than I am. And
that's true. That's a really good point. Sure. Let's go with that one.
Sure. Well, I mean, you know, we're a CBB mindset. We'll check in on the big game, I'm sure. But ultimately, this is where our love's at. hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast, the video cast, the write-ups that we're doing each week. We're getting, what do we got, 5 weeks left after this one, Bird?
Yeah, we're coming in hot here to end the season. So looking forward to getting closer to March and getting those conference tournaments underway and really getting to March Madness. It's going to be it's a great time of year. We're just really excited. And, so, where to follow us on Twitter at CBB_DFS. You can go to our awesome website that Joe has up at CBB-DFS.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all your major podcast providers, which you probably already have if you're listening to this now. But weekly content Monday through Friday, podcast Friday night for the Saturday slate, prize picks every day. Use CBB DFS promo code to get 100% deposit match and then just win all the money.
That's it. It's just that easy,
as
guys.
that.
All right. Do we got anything left? I think we're good.
All right, Bucketheads, now it's your time. Go make a great lineup and win that 5K.
See you guys. I got a timer that time.
Recording.
No, I stopped it. No.